So in Iraq, one of the main causes for casualties were IEDs, and you as a truck driver, were at risk for being hit by an IED. Did you ever have any experiences with them? Or?
Yeah, the closest I had to IEDs, luckily, were IEDs that were encountered as we were going on a convoy, and we saw signs that this potentially could be an IED, so we would call in the ordnance folks, and they'd come and check it out. So the closest I got to IEDs are the ones that were in our route. We identified them ahead of time. The MPs are there, they're dealing with it, and we either had to wait and then have it detonated, they would detonate it, or we'd go around it. Our unit, several of our trucks were hit by IEDs, or they ran them over or whatever. And we had some soldiers go home with some pretty severe injuries. We had a couple trucks. One truck was burnt to the ground, and the cargo and the trailer. Another truck, the IED actually killed a soldier in the truck, but the soldier in the truck coincidentally was from a unit that we were hauling their equipment out of the country, and they're from the 1st Infantry Division. And that particular time, we needed some more people to drive in the trucks with us because we didn't have enough drivers for the mission, so we had to have a trained driver in the seat driving, and we took one of their guys to do the security. The ID went off on that side of the truck, and it actually came up into his protective gear, the ballistic shields they're wearing. And actually the shrapnel came up through the side, which has no protection, and it actually was trapped in the body because it couldn't get out. So it killed him that way. So that was bizarre. And the truck we had to haul that out of the country, and it was not in Kuwait. It was just a charred wreck.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we would be shot at a lot more, just random. Especially, they always told us, "Hey, get off the road before it gets dark. Get into one of the bases, spend the night, and then go on." And most of the times when we were on missions that were taking the wrong route, we would find ourselves in these positions where just tracer rounds would come in from wherever, and it's hard to you don't want to respond with force if you don't know your target, because you need to preserve whatever rounds you have, 8 hours away from your supply line,
So as a truck driver fighting against a guerrilla force, did you ever actually see the enemy, or did you just see the tracer rounds?
It's really interesting, because I probably stared right into the enemy's eyes and never even really noticed, because of the nature of the guerrilla force. And the most eerie I've ever felt was going through downtown sections of Baghdad or elsewhere, where the main route would take you right through towns with multi-story buildings on the side with balconies and people standing in those balconies, and you never know what their intentions were. So as far as a one-on-one encounter, the only place I saw that was up in Sinjar, which is north, I guess it would be northwest of Baghdad, towards the Syrian border, and we were hit by a rocket attack in a small base there, and the 82nd Airborne was their base. As soon as that happened, being that we're truck drivers, we're not kicking the doors down of people, we're more for supply. But the 82nd Airborne, this is another instance where these are very, very young soldiers, just out of high school, and their main job is to kill. And they're trained to do that very efficiently. So that's when I saw where after the rocket attack, we were returning fire at pretty much anything that was moving outside the base, which included, unfortunately, women, children, animals, men. So that was the closest I got to the actual enemy there. And I always think, how many of those people actually deserved to be shot at that particular point? So we didn't know.
And there's nothing you could do about it.
And there's nothing we could do about it, because we couldn't move off base at that particular point, and all we saw was these very highly trained killers, 82nd Airborne, very elite troops, and they're trained to react the way they did, and they did it very efficiently. But I always wondered, because they came in the next day and we were having breakfast, and they just had come in from that mission that night before, bragging about how many people they had taken out, and so it was hard to listen to and not have your stomach turn. Although, you know, it could have been that they took out the enemy, but I didn't see too many women packing heat. You know.
Yeah, you sound like you have a more like aged perspective on it. And,
Yeah.
So, what was your most memorable moment overseas?
Probably in this space that it's in between. We just crossed the bridge outside of Fallujah. This particular bridge, it's crossing over the Euphrates River. Once you leave Fallujah, Fallujah was a hot spot towards the end of our deployment, and the Marines took it over, and it was civilian contractors were killed and hung off the bridge. They blew holes up through the bottom of the bridge with IEDs and so forth. But we crossed through Fallujah, and it was always good to leave Fallujah because you're always on edge there because we were shot at many times in that city. But we were driving up to a base, and the base, one of the reasons why people get lost in Iraq is they change the base names frequently. So you went to Camp Dogwood one week and it's Camp Cedar the next week. And you're like, wait a minute, what base are we talking about? So we went up after being kind of turned around a little bit. We went up to this base, and we got up to this base, and it was really interesting because they had all these French fighter jets, because the French provided them some fighter jets probably in the 1980s, the Iraqis. And they had the Iraqis dug holes in the ground, and all you could see was a tail sticking up. And they wrapped the whole jet in plastic and kind of buried it in a bunker, thinking they can hide it from us. So that was hilarious. But we get up to this place, and it turns out this place has this lake that was like, it was for the Ba'ath Party, for the Saddam Hussein's loyalists, and it was like 99% pure. It was like clear water, and the lake was, it was part of the base, so they took over the lake, and the only people that could use it were Ba'ath Party members, and it was not polluted at all. And they said, hey, because we took it over, you could use it if you want. So after we went to dinner, we drove in basically our underwear, so who has a swimsuit in Iraq? So we drove in our stuff, or our BDUs. We get down to this beach. We strip down to our underwear, and we're running into this lake. We're looking up at the top of the lake, and there's a guy, one of our guys up there. He's got a bunker set up with a 50 cal mounted over the top of the lake to protect us, because since the takeover, there was Iraqi civilians that would use the lake to fish. So way out in the lake, we had this huge roll of concertina wire set up. So here we were in this lake swimming. We were thrilled. Here we are, it's in probably July at that particular point. We run down the lake, think we're going to go cool off. I think the lake water must have been 75, 80 degrees. So we're like disappointed that way, but I think that was the most memorable, bizarre turn of events at that particular base.